CBS News Bay Area Afternoon Edition with Ann Makovic.
Right now on the afternoon edition, we have our eye on Los Angeles, bracing for a fifth day of demonstrations over deportation sweeps by ICE agents. 700 Marines now arriving in this city, along with 2,000 more National Guard troops, all at the direction of President Trump. And this just in, Governor Newsom filing an emergency motion to block that deployment, calling it illegal. Thanks for joining us today. We are getting our first look at the cost for the troop deployment to Los Angeles, $134 million. That is according to the Pentagon. We are beginning our coverage with Danya Bacchus, live in Los Angeles with the very latest. And Danya, what we've heard is that things have been calm today, hoping it'll stay that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Things have been calm here this morning. Again, it is only noon, though, and we know how things can quickly change here. But some of those 4,000 National Guard members that have been deployed to this area are behind me at a staging area by a federal building in downtown Los Angeles. This as they brace for a fifth day of possible protests.
Members of the U.S. Army National Guard are on duty in Los Angeles as protests continue over ICE deportation raids.
I feel like we've all been in Los Angeles a part of a grand experiment to see what happens when the federal government decides they want to roll up on a state or roll up on a city and take over.
Bypassing California's governor, President Trump authorized the deployment of an additional 2,000 troops to the city Monday, along with 700 U.S. Marines to protect federal buildings and law enforcement.
I just want a safe area. Los Angeles was under siege until we got there. The police were unable to handle it.
City officials say the federal response is only contributing to the chaos.
The violence that has happened has required LAPD to ask for additional assistance, but not from the federal government.
As officers moved in to break up crowds overnight, some protesters threw flares and fireworks at police, resulting in dozens of arrests.
I don't even know where we can go and be safe, where we can express ourselves without feeling intimidation of the police.
Demonstrations against ICE are now spreading to other cities. In Austin, police used tear gas to disperse crowds gathered at the state capitol, demanding an end to the Trump administration's deportation campaign.
And again, another quiet afternoon here in downtown Los Angeles. The Guard troops are here, and we were actually just seeing some of those military troops coming to this area off of the freeway here. They probably will be coming here behind us. As we know, more and more of them will be coming to this area to try to, what they say, quell protest here. Reporting live from downtown Los Angeles, I'm Danya Bacchus. Back to you.
Danya, when we, hear about the emotions getting heightened, which they have really every night for the past several nights, are you getting a sense that it's more over the original protests, the ICE raids, or is it about the federal military response that has come in more recently?
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit of both. Of course, you have people who are here definitely because they feel like they do not want to see those raids happening, that they've had family members or loved ones who have been impacted by those raids, and they want those people to be released. And then you also are hearing from people who are here who are very angry that there has been a military presence, a federal response here in the city. Yesterday when we were out here and there were protesters, we did hear them say National Guard's got to go over and over again. And they were chanting shame, shame, shame to those National Guard members. So when you talk to people here, it is a little bit of both when it comes to what they're actually here for and why they are upset.
And are you getting the sense that if people are protesting peacefully, not breaking things, not throwing things, that they are still being dispersed?
Yes, and we have actually seen that in this area. For instance, yesterday in the same area where there were a group of protesters, it was a very peaceful protest during the day. You started to see more of a law enforcement presence. We saw California Highway Patrol come in and they started to move the crowd. So it seems like when they're dispersing people or trying to move them, they're trying to get them in one area. Grand Park was that area here yesterday where it seems like they're hopefully trying to get a control of the crowd. But even in situations where they have been peaceful, you do kind of see just this forceful movement. And I think that probably is a little jarring for some people who are, standing there protesting peacefully, maybe chanting, to then kind of be pushed by the military or by the local law enforcement here, rather than military. Local law enforcement is what we've seen, not really knowing where they're going. So I do think that starts to cause some confusion, and that's when you start to see the crowd get a little restless.
All right, really appreciate that perspective. Danya Backus live for us in Los Angeles. We appreciate it. The anti-ICE protests that we have been seeing in cities all around the country have been ramping up, including here in San Francisco. You could see these scenes from Market Street last night. This is just south of Civic Center Plaza. Dozens of people at one point were sitting on the ground surrounded by police, and then some of them clashed with police as officers moved in to try to disperse the crowd. Officers ended up zip tying several demonstrators and took them into custody. And police did say that they arrested several people. We're still waiting to get an exact number on arrests from the San Francisco Police Department. We did speak with one protester who says that he was hit by a projectile from police.
I walked over there. I'll admit I was about to pick up some rocks, and then the officers told me to put him down, so I put him down. As soon as I turned around to walk back into the street after listening to the demand, I just bam, right in the back of my left leg. I never seen them this aggressive in the city. Never this bad for, just freedom of speech. It's not like we're destroying property or nothing. I think we have every right to stand out here peacefully and, say what we want.
In San Francisco's Mission District, a crowd of about 2,000 took to the streets voicing their outrage over ICE raids and arrests across the country and the recent deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles ordered by President Trump. And while that was mostly peaceful, a small group broke off and started damaging businesses in the Mission. Here's one of them, a Skechers store on the corner of 22nd and Mission Streets vandalized. This morning, we saw some windows there broken, boarded up, or covered with plastic. Mayor Daniel Lurie addressed the vandalism at a public safety briefing this morning.
We will always protect the right to protest peacefully, but violence and destruction have no place in our city. Vandalizing local businesses with hateful language, damaging property is unacceptable. When that happens, law enforcement will take action.
And now many businesses in the city taking steps to protect their property. Veronica Macias is in Union Square, where a popular store is boarding up.
Well, the number of protesters seems to be growing. From what we witnessed at Monday night's demonstration in the Mission District, things seem to remain peaceful and calmer. Though stores here in the Union Square area, they're preparing for any escalation by boarding up their storefronts. On this Tuesday morning, we found several businesses working to put security film and plywood on their storefront, preventing vandalism and graffiti and shattered glass like we've seen on the streets of San Francisco over the past weekend. Stores like Nintendo and Nike are working to prevent hundreds of dollars lost in damages. Monday night's protest saw thousands of people taking to the street to protest the ICE raids and deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles. Those working this morning on protecting the storefronts agree with the demonstrations as immigrants themselves and believe people should join in solidarity, but in a peaceful manner.
Yeah, so I think everybody got the right, to be protesting against the government.
What was also noticeable here in Union Square this morning was the lack of driverless cars. Waymo is scaling back on their service in areas where there are demonstrators present.
We are going to have continuing coverage of this developing story on air and online, kpix.com. Other local headlines we are following today. Mayor Lurie is unveiling a new plan to clear oversized RVs and trailers from San Francisco city streets. The proposal would ban oversized vehicles from parking on city streets for more than 2 hours. The city also plans to offer outreach and cash incentives to help people living in those vehicles find housing. The mayor's legislation includes a buyback program to encourage people to give up their RVs. If approved, this policy could roll out this fall. Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee pulling back on a raise for her entire staff. She scrapped a $1.7 million budget boost that would have raised staff salaries. That comes, of course, as the city is facing a $245 million budget shortfall. Lee says every dollar in the budget must serve Oakland residents. Today, city council members are expected to propose amendments to the budget to prevent layoffs. City council voting on the full budget later this month. Today, a federal judge hears more about a heated homeless encampment sweep in Berkeley. Last week, the city crews tore down that camp at 8th and Harrison without warning, using smoke and non-lethal weapons. A judge quickly ordered Berkeley to stop the sweep, and now tents are returning as the legal battle continues. Still ahead here at noon and streaming on CBS News Bay Area. Are TikTok's days numbered in the U.S.? Here we go again with another deadline for the popular social media network.
Well, I'll tell you that our foggy days are not done here in San Francisco. You can see it's that typical June gloom, but just head on a little bit farther inland and there's plenty of sunshine. I'll let you know where the sun and the fog are going to be sitting over the next several days coming up in just a bit.
Well, once again, the clock is ticking for TikTok to remain online in the U.S. The popular social network app has 9 days left to find a buyer. Congress last year passed a bill forcing TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to sell the platform because of national security concerns. President Trump already extended the deadline twice and is reportedly considering a third reprieve. Billionaire businessman Frank McCourt and his partners are among several investment groups bidding to acquire the app. McCourt told CBS Mornings he thinks there is a 50-50 chance of taking over TikTok's U.S. operation.
We don't know ultimately what the Trump administration is going to decide, but we do believe that they will abide by the law. The law requires the disentanglement from the Chinese algorithm. We can do that. We don't know what China is going to do either.
TikTok went dark in the U.S. on the day of Trump's inauguration for about 12 hours after the initial deadline for a deal came and went. Critics warn user data is at risk as long as ByteDance retains ownership of TikTok. ByteDance insists it does not share data with the Chinese government. All right, back to our first alert weather. Let's take another live look outside. A little hazy after a bit of a foggy morning, but let's check back in with meteorologist Zoe Mintz because she's been promising the sunshine will return.
The sunshine, it will return if you live inland. I'm sorry, if you live along the coast and you've been wanting to see some sunshine, you might have to wait a couple of days. If you live in San Jose, though, it is a beautiful afternoon, blue skies, clear and quiet. But again, in San Francisco, closer to the coast, it's that typical June gloom. It's dreary out there. There is that low-hanging fog and cloud coverage. We should be looking at Sutro Tower, but it's completely engulfed by that thick, low-hanging cloud coverage. Right now, temperatures are actually pretty chilly here in San Francisco as well. We're still sitting in the mid-50s, and we woke up in the mid-50s, so it really hasn't warmed up all too much since this morning. Mid to upper 60s elsewhere to low 70s across our more inland communities that are seeing more of that sunshine. This afternoon, though, we are going to be a degree or two below average for most of the Bay Area, besides down into the Santa Clara Valley and San Jose, where those high temperatures are going to be in the upper 70s, which is a degree above normal for this time of year. It's nothing too crazy, but it's within about 5 degrees of average for this time of year. So it really kind of depends on where you're located, how warm you're going to get. If you want to enjoy more of that heat, head on inland. If you don't mind the fog, the winds, more of the cloud coverage, their coastal communities are going to be a safe bet for you. And it's kind of going to be a rinse and repeat into tomorrow compared to what we're feeling today. And by Thursday, that's when more sunshine is going to return, as we're going to be noticing a bit more of that onshore flow coming in directly from west to east. Because over the past several days, we've been looking at more of a southwesterly flow as ridging has been taking place. That allows a bit more moisture to be ushered in, and that allows for that thicker fog and thicker cloud coverage in the morning. But notice how the winds turn more west to east, directly in that parallel line And that is bringing us drier conditions, actually. And look, by Thursday afternoon, you might even see a few more peaks of sunshine, especially if you live closer to our coastal communities that haven't been seeing a lot of sunshine. Thursday is your day to maybe soak up a little bit of that. Temperatures warming up a degree or two on Thursday as well. For our inland communities, we'll be back in the mid to upper 80s, depending on where you're located. Coastal communities back into the low 60s on Thursday, along with a few peaks of sunshine. Not a sunny day by any means, but at least it'll be a little bit more than what we're expecting to see today and tomorrow. Back to you.
Well, thanks, Zoe. Here's some news you can use about those accidental email sends. We've all done it. We're going to get a little advice from some experts about how to save face when it happens. We're getting another report of vandalism during last night's protests in San Francisco. This was at a Jewish-owned community space, and they seem to have a different message. Manny's is a coffee shop on 16th and Valencia Streets in the Mission. During last night's anti-ICE protest, an offshoot group broke in and damaged the space, spray painting and breaking glass. They sprayed Free Palestine and other anti-Semitic messages on the walls and the windows. Manny's is open today as workers clean up the damage. The owner, Manny Yucatil, says that the vandalism is counterproductive.
I just feel like it's very counter to the work, to the actual good work of the protests and the reason behind the protests to vandalize my business.
He also said that he supports the end to the war in Gaza and actually attended an anti-ICE protest earlier in the day. Well, most of us have been there. You hit reply all when you meant to message just one person, or maybe you sent an email to the wrong person altogether. Or for me, it's always the premature send. Luckily, there is some technology to help you save face. Employment experts say the first step is to accept that the accident happened, since ignoring it or hoping nobody noticed could actually make it worse. Next, acknowledge your mistake to the recipients. They say follow-up emails with apologies or clarifications go a long way, especially when done quickly. And lastly, try to move on rather than emotionally attaching to the digital mistake. That's probably good advice for a lot of us in a lot of areas of our life. In recent years, technology has caught up to our inevitable errors. For example, right after clicking send on Gmail, an unsend prompt appears that gives you 5 seconds to snatch it back. You can increase that grace period to 30 seconds in the settings. Outlook also has a recall feature, but it only works if the recipient is also using Outlook and has not yet opened the email. And if you text with an iPhone, you can unsend the message by pressing it and then selecting undo send. Facebook Messenger and Instagram also have an unsend feature that does delete messages, but both of them have a time limit, so act quickly. That is it for the afternoon edition. Remember, we are streaming 24/7 on the free CBS News app.